Hi, I'm Ray Young. I'm an emeritus professor at the University of Wisconsin in Madison, and I'm continuing my series of lectures on Polynesian cultures of the South Pacific. And today we'll continue our discussion of Polynesian plant usage. A very typical Polynesian beverage is called kava, or awa in Samoan or awa in Hawaiian. It's actually a pepper plant, and it's used throughout Polynesia for a variety of uses. The kava drink is a mild narcotic, sedative, and hypnotic. Shown at the left is a Fijian man bringing home the rootstock of this pepper plant, which contains the active ingredients, the kava lactones. I often refer to him as bringing home a six-pack in the Polynesian culture. It's also common in Fiji as well. Shown at the bottom right is the preparation of the kava. The root is macerated, sometimes actually chewed and macerated, but macerated to a fine powder type material, and then it's strained through some type of strainer and to extract the active ingredients. In the ancient cultures, they would often want a virgin woman to be preparing the kava, and it's prepared in this typical kava bowl, which is still characteristic of the Polynesian cultures, the kava bowl. Being that the kava drink is a mild hypnotic narcotic, why would the Pope be drinking kava? This is Pope John Paul in Fiji in 1986, drinking the kava. Well, the kava had a lot more significance than just a social drink. Shown here is a picture of the kava ceremony drawn by the artist John Weber, who was on Captain Cook's third voyage in 1776, being received into the village with the kava ceremony. It was a ceremonial beverage for all of Polynesia. So it had a number of significant features. It was political, religious, social, and economic. Political, it symbolized the drinker's acceptance of the local political hierarchy. It was a method for communication with ancestors and gods in the religious sense. And so socially, it's an important traditional exchange with friends, which is typical for today. And it is an economic cash crop for many of the Polynesian islands. An important social drink, but had significant impact in previous years as a political and religious. Here's a kava ceremony held for my group of students in Samoa a number of years ago. The leader of the kava ceremony would dip a small bowl or a half coconut shell into the solution of kava, and then pass it around each individual according to the hierarchy, with the chiefs and me being the chief or leader of the student group being one of the first to drink, and then their chiefs, and then to each of the individual students or members of the ceremony. And it's quite a wonderful way of greeting a group into the Polynesian culture, and it was very much appreciated by my students in this class. Okay, let's look at some additional plant materials used for medicinals. We're talking about Noni or Nonu, black nightshade, and turmeric. Now, you should remember in many of the traditional cultures throughout the world that most of them use the typical herbal medicines. They don't have access to a lot of the expensive Western medicines, so one of the ways of application was topical application with the leaves or an extract or an ointment from the plant used to treat wounds and so on an individual. So topical application was typical in these cultures and in the Polynesian culture. I want to talk first about the Nonu or Noni. The leaves were crushed and massaged under the body for aches, infection, and inflammation. So the leaves were an important component, but also the fruit, and the ripe fruit shown on the bottom right was used and crushed the fruit was crushed as a juice and used for indigestion, diabetes, and hypertension. And it's highly valued in the Polynesian societies, and you can see people in Hawaii drinking it regularly. And it's also available in the herbal food stores here. Another plant used for medicinals is the black nightshade, Magalo in Samoan, Popolo in Hawaiian. This plant was the foundation of the Hawaiian pharmacy. The god Lano Puha, the god of healing, treated the injured foot. And the leaves were used for wounds and cuts. It was also used as a tea for colds and sore throats. Another plant was turmeric, ago in Samoan, olina in Hawaiian. It was curcuma longa, Latin name. And in this case, the root, the grated rhizome, was ground up and used as a medicinal ointment for sores, rashes, and shingles. This was particularly in Samoa. It was also used as a condiment, which we do commonly today use it as in our own culture, and as a yellow dye. Okay, let's look at plants now utilized for materials in Polynesia. I'm talking about three: paper mulberry, screwpine, and uniquely to New Zealand, the New Zealand flax. The Tapa or Kapa or Siaipu, as it was called in Samoa, was prepared from the paper mulberry tree, or shrubby looking tree, shown in the top left. Now the Polynesian woman is shown here biting the bark off of the saplings to free up the bark, and then the inner bark is flattened and scraped shown down at the bottom. The outer bark is removed, so it's the inner bark that's collected to produce this tapa cloth. Then it's heavily beaten, vigorously beaten with a wooden mallet, and it's overlaid to make larger fabrics. It actually stretches out the bark considerably, but to make huge fabrics, tapa fabrics, it has to be overlaid. And then the tapa cloth is put on a rubbing board called an upidi to produce a design, and then the design is painted onto the tapa using the fruits from the screwpine tree, which we'll talk about in a minute. That's the fruit, and the little keys are pulled out and they're used to paint the design in natural dyes as shown on the tapa cloth on the right. The tapa cloths were important gifts, particularly for ceremonies in all of Polynesia. Shown here is a huge tapa cloth on the top from a Samoan family. At the bottom, a Tongan chief displays his huge tapa cloth with very exquisite design, and it was typically used for clothing. But it was a very important ceremonial gift in Polynesian culture, related to the amount of work involved. Another plant utilized is screwpine, called fala in Samoan and hala in Hawaiian, and it was used for all types of mats, flooring, bedding, and clothing and wraps. A very useful plant in that sense, and it was the fronds or the leaves that was utilized. They were dried in the sun and then split and woven into mats and floor covers and so on. And here's some mats, the picture I took in Samoa, where he's woven these very nice screwpine mats for his folly hut. In New Zealand, they had a different culture because many of the plant materials, as I mentioned in the earlier lecture, didn't survive, and the New Zealand flax was utilized for clothing material, and shown here is skirt or breech type clothing. I'm shown here with several Maori displaying the use of the New Zealand flax for their clothing material. Okay, that concludes the lecture for today, and then we'll have the final lecture on the summary in Polynesia today coming up after this. Thank you.